Let's see. Here we go. Here we go. All right. Hold on. Brother Dahoud, what's happening?
How are you today, Brother Basir? Greetings to the audience, to the WBAI family, and our program, Haiti, Our Revolution continues. It's on BAI Saturdays, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. I'm good.
Yes, sir. Well, it's important, and we're happy that we have you in the WBAI family as we go ahead and talk about issues related to Haiti. Right now, as many of our listeners know, there's a crisis which is actually taking place in Haiti. And, well, we have seen various reflections of this in the media. And as we actually have seen this, uh, there are a lot of questions that I guess we have to raise in regards to what is actually taking place. I think one of the major issues that we have when we talk about the question of Haiti is that many people are not really familiar in regards to some of Haiti's history. So I thought that it might be a good place to actually start there. Now, we can go back to 1492 or even beyond, but I don't know if we have enough time to actually go ahead and do that. But one of the things we have to say in regards to that is that when Christopher Columbus landed on this particular island, which he decided to call Hispaniola, in 1492, that led to a series of genocidal events which actually decimated the population that had existed there. And people talk about those populations as being either the Arawak or the Taino indigenous population. But from 1492 until possibly about, 1514, by 1514, that particular population, which had been in the hundreds of thousands, had actually gone ahead and dwindled down to tens of thousands, possibly. So, I mean, we could literally start there. But I want to kind of start with the Haitian Revolution. And we've been joined by our other guest, that's Sister Èzili Dantò. She is here, Haitian activist and lawyer. Good to see you. Good to have you aboard. But let's start with the Haitian Revolution, just so people have some kind of historical context. Dahoud, why don't you start?
Yeah, what some of us in Haiti always want to point out is that our history as a people, it does not start, once we are captured, kidnapped, and brought over here. So definitely we want to point out to family that our people did not come over here. We're not brought over here. They were not captured as slaves. They were put into slavery. So these were, husbands, wives, they were children, they were happy people, and not, savages waiting to be kidnapped to be civilized by folks over here. But the thing about before we do get to the revolution, Basir, to point out is that not all of the colonizers came, ended up doing the same thing. Like if we take the example of what happened on the island of, Christopher Columbus supposedly called it Hispaniola. So 1/3 became Saint-Domingue, the French colony, and 2/3 became what later becomes Dominican Republic. But the Spanish side of the island is they had two different purposes in terms of what the colonizers were using the land and the enslaved Africans for. Basically, on the French side, it became like a colony that they were farming. They were coffee, sugar, indigo, tobacco, so many other things. And what we understand is that on the Spanish side of the island, it was not used for farming. And so the quantity of Africans that were brought on both sides were very, very, very different. And so we read some accounts that 10 years was the lifespan of an African brought on the island, it brought to the French side. Whereas, and it was by the time we get to 1791 when our revolution actually gets engaged. We're talking, they say between 450 to 500,000 of our folks who were there. Whereas on the Spanish side of the island, it was maybe 100,000 from what we understand. And it does not, it's two different realities. And also another factor is that most of the battles that are fought historically on the French side for our freedom, they happen in the northern part of Saint-Domingue. And this is because the large plantations where we had like huge conglomerations of Africans, they were in the northern part of the colony. So this is where you have a Macandal operating in the 1750s. This is where you have Bookman operating. This is where, the major battles, the last battle, Battle of Vertières, November 1803, actually happens just like just a step away from where Bookman held the ceremony of Wakaima. So that is important. And as you're saying, this crisis, it's funny. Some of us, we say, it's up and down, but it's not, what can we say? It's not anything new. And funny, I was reading today an article by Howard French, who was a New York Times reporter about 25 years ago, the two coups that happened. And he's making the point that this is not the first time this is happening in Haiti. I have to mention that this was a reviled New York Times black man, New York Times reporter, that we actually, in those days, protested against the New York Times building because of what we felt were, foul stuff that Howard French, who's at Columbia right now, was writing at that time. But yeah, it's not the first time. I would say this proliferation of gangs, the level of the violence, maybe, but prison breaks, shutting down airports, random killings of Haitians. It's definitely not the first time we're seeing this.
Mm-hmm. Sister Èzili, we're going in attempting to try to get some background so we understand what's taking place in some kind of historical context. I don't know where we should start. I mean, we could talk about 1915 and the United States, because one of the things that happens is that very often the United States is literally not seen in the picture, although we know that the involvement of the United States in Haiti has been something that's literally been going on for years and years and years. I think you're muted.
So thank you for having me, Brother Basir. Hello, Dahoud. We are original to the planet. Let's begin there. As you said, our story doesn't start with slavery, but so original to the planet. I was just studying the Nile and the Congo because Haiti is very connected to the Congo. And I'm right now studying a way to work with the Congo lawyers to bring a case against the descendants of the colonists and slavers who actually began the Mahafa in Haiti in 1501. So we are the place where the Mahafa, the Holocaust for children that would slide down my thigh, we are the place that started. Folks should understand that. We are also the place where Africans coming from all over West Africa, down to Angola, and specifically to the Congo, who had been fighting these invaders for millenniums, if we go back to the Arab slave trade. And then from about 1444, if you go to the beginning, when Columbus and his merry men of rapists started on the west coast of Africa. So it's been a long fight. And today I was thinking about this interview and how to really retrace the horrors that we've lived as a people. And I went back to the first historian of Haiti. His name is Adjunct General. He was the secretary for Janjak Desalin, the greatest hero to ever live, the general who beat Napoleon, the man who gave us our freedom and gave the race of Africans their dignity back. So Boisontonnerre has a book that I encourage all of you to try to translate. And you can do that with Google. It's hard to do, but you definitely can get the gist of what he's saying. The book is out there. Obviously, he wrote it on the year of our independence. He wrote it in 1804. That, my people, is after 300 years. So when you look at the violence, porn, and trauma that the descendants of the enslavers and colonists are throwing at you in the mainstream media, remember, Dahoud actually sent me a video today about Komakoda, an organization that he helps to run, where it says that we know how to resist. We are the resistors. That's what Haiti is. We resisted slavery, 300 years of slavery. We resisted, and we resisted occupations all through now since our independence. So we've had, besides the 1,200 plus invasion of the Arabs, slavery of the East, we Africans who were brought to the West have suffered with regards to Haiti, the place where it started, with Christopher Columbus, as I said, and his merry men of pedophiles, destroying the native Haitian, the Taino Haitian. We are the African Haitian. So that's what we've had to deal with. And so here I am today, the survivor, like Dahoud, of this road of blood. And we survive. And that song that I'm talking about, it says that we survived slavery, we survived occupation. How long have we been with the occupation? Since the assassination by Pétion, the mulatto generals and his merry men of Eurocentric Africans. And Eurocentric Africans played, and mulattoes specifically, played a very big role on the west coast of Africa, because the European, a lot of the ways that he comes in his war is in a sexual manner, giving birth to mulattoes who then fight my African children. And that's what Pétion's about. So you asked me about the occupation. So for about a century, Haiti was struggling to stay alive within a hostile American Mediterranean. We gained our independence, as Dahoud was saying, from 1791 to 1804, a 13-year war. In that 13-year war, the European template was established. We had to, in the South, as Dahoud just said, you mostly had a lot of the mulatto generals like Pétion and Boyer. And I was reading Boisrontonnerre, the first historian of Haiti, the one that the academics won't ever tell you about, because he expressed the soul of our fight. He tells you that they are monsters, they are tyrants, they're vile assassins. And who are their descendants today? Who are the vile assassins today? That if you read Boisrontonnerre's Memory for the History of Haiti, that's what it's called. It's in French, of course. As I said, you guys can definitely translate. He said, you know, how do I tell you this story? And that's kind of what I always grapple with, because I've been doing this for so long. What happens with what they give us, you know, the crushing, the visuals you see of barbecue and Guy Philippe and these death squad leaders that are created by our enemies to kill us. That template is something they've been doing since before slavery. The Pétions, the Boyers, the mulatto sons, they were given privileges, but they were required to go chase the escaped slave, even if it was their mother, and bring them back into slavery. And that's what Guy Philippe, Barbecue, and all of these men that you see on the streets of Haiti are. They are about their own opportunism. They are people like the way it works today. Back in the day, they had, you know, the overseers and then the planters, and in between they had their children that they educated in France to come back and be part of the maréchaussée, the group of militia to go out and find the escaped slaves. Well, that's doesn't change. The white man doesn't change his domination techniques, his murderous genocide. In 1492, it started. It was kind of the same year, not kind of, it was the same year when the Moors fell. And when you look at Dominican Republic, you must remember that, right? Dominican Republic and those who had been conquered by the Africans, Moors, right? They did not want, they had this image of the horde, the black hordes. And today, when you see the Dominican Republics, they still have that fear of Haiti, the black hordes, right? Tainting their bloodline. So since our independence in 1804, we have lived in a hostile American Mediterranean where all of the other islands never fought for their independence. They were given it, and they were given it after our independence because the United States saw Haiti and the men and women who beat them as threats, and they still see us as threats. So right now, as they do their geopolitics, we are between Cuba and Venezuela, two spaces where they're fighting with their cousins, Russia. And Haiti is that space where the United States cannot lose the hemisphere. And so they crush us. And since 2004, when they deported President Jean-Bertrand Aristide, they have come in to literally depopulate the place. That's what you're seeing. I know that there are two liberal white men, Dan Cohen, supposedly liberal, and Kim Ives, who are going around making as if barbecue is some sort of revolutionary. Jimmy Barbecue Cherizier, a former policeman. And I'm here to tell you that Bois Tonnerre would say these are tyrants and monsters, that folks like Dan Cohen and Kim Ives are misleading their platform for a reason. I went to Haiti. I was born in Haiti and I returned back in 1994. And I say this to every African. Whenever you see things that make no sense, just remember its author is CIA, period. So we've had 220 years of surviving. And right now there's about 12 to 13 million Haitians. As Dahoud said, we started with 500,000. We lost 250,000 in the 13-year war. So we started with 250,000. And though they've done everything to try to destroy us, we're still here, we're still resisting, and we will win. Because the universe doesn't like ugly. And we are the original people of the planet. And my name is Èzili Dantò for a reason. It's the most powerful name for a female in Haitian culture, not a European name. I don't have a brand of myself. And so because I exist, we will win. And I tell folks who are watching this media porn of violence that it is intended, like Bois Tonnerre said, him and the secretary for Christophe, the two greatest generals to ever live, who helped abolish slavery and direct colonialism and the triangular trade and forced assimilation. I urge you to understand, people, that we are fighting monsters, not the type of white people that I see when I go to the grocery stores. These ambassadors who rule Haiti are career assassins. They are jackals. I refuse to call them ambassadors, but I wanted to associate so you understand who and what they are. The 6 nations who are ruling Haiti, who have divided us in the way of the Psyche-Pico sort of division, where France and Britain divided the Ottoman Empire, or the Berlin Conference in 1888-85, where they divided Africa. Now they've come together in that manner to divide Haiti and its massive resources. Those 5 nations, for you to understand, you will never see them. They are, like you said, Brother Basir, they're always going to send some Negroes like CARICOM, who have the nerve to be telling the only nations who ever fought for their independence and abolished slavery, whose politicians are put into power, especially, let's say, take one, Jamaica, Holmes, in the garrisons where he comes from. It is gangs that put the politicians to power. And they lost the fight that we're fighting now back in the 70s and early 80s. The gangs control the politicians of Jamaica. But they don't tell you that. They want to show you us and my children as cannibals. But yet we have no manufacturing of guns. It comes all from the United States and the CIA and their overseers, who are the buffer races, the Syrian, Lebanese, Israelis. So if the United States or any American wanted to get rid of what's happening in Haiti today and stop talking to us about like those domestic Negroes you just saw, like Al Sharpton and Eric Adams and all those other Negroes. We don't manufacture guns. The 2 biggest funders of those people you see on the street killing are Gilbert Bijou, Mateli, and mostly those who were put into office in the PH neo-devaluerist party. If the United States, both Mateli and Gilbert Bijou, live in the United States, instead of just sanctioning them emptily, toothlessly, for financing murder. How do you sanction someone for financing murder and rape and destruction of agriculture and irrigation canals and banks and just infrastructure, closings of schools, the destruction of my investment into Haiti as the real investor, the diaspora's $3.1 billion per year. How do you just sanction that? No, you put an arrest warrant for murder. So if the United States did that, they live in Miami and Florida, we would have no more gangs, because if they were not being financed, if those $5,000 weapons were not, they had no bullets in them, the local Haitian would take care of all of these people.
Mm-hmm. Well, listen, we're going to take a little break here. We got to do our station ID. We'd like to remind everyone you're listening to WBAI New York 99.5 FM. This is Education at the Crossroads. I am Basir Mchawi. We are talking with Dahoud Andre, who many of you in the WBAI audience are familiar with. He has his show on the weekend where he talks about Haiti and the revolution, which is ongoing. And we also are talking with Sister Èzili Dantò, who is an attorney. And, well, she's got a lot to say, for sure. If you enjoy listening to WBAI, we need to understand that WBAI is currently in a crisis. It's been a continual crisis, but it seems to go ahead and get worse. And then sometimes it gets better, but it appears at this particular point to be a little bit worse. So we are encouraging all of you, the listeners and the viewers, to support WBAI. And you can do so in two different ways. First, you can go to the website. The website is give, G-I-V-E, the number 2, WBAI.org. Give to WBAI.org and make a donation, because you are hearing things that you're not necessarily going to hear anywhere else. If you do, it's a rarity, and for the most part, it will not be in the so-called mainstream media. There may be some independent media where you can hear some of these particular voices. But in order for this to continue, we need your support. So those of you who can actually go to a computer or some kind of streaming device where you can actually go ahead and communicate, you can go to, as I said, the website give, G-I-V-E, the number 2, WBAI.org, and pledge, donate at any amount. Any amount is, at this particular point, better than nothing. Also, for those of you who are not near a computer, you can call 212-209-2950 and make a donation. 212-209-2950. Dahoud, we talk about the United States in regards to its involvement. Many people don't like to believe that the United States is involved as deeply as it actually is. As an example, 2004, and the United States military comes in and takes President Aristide and takes him to the Central African Republic, where he had no connection, no link, and did not desire. This somehow, to this day, the United States does not call it a coup. The United States does not see it as the removal of a duly elected president of a country. And I mean, this goes on for years now. It's been 20 years now. So what is the role of the United States in Haiti and what's going on?
Before we get to that, I have to tell the audience, when you call 212-209-2950 to make a donation to WBAI, make sure you tell the person on the line that you're making this donation in support of Brother Basir Mchawi's program, Education at the Crossroads. That's important because as of March, BAI is keeping tally.
I hear you. Listen,
We
you know,
cannot lose programs like Education at the Crossroads. So please, please make a donation because once BAI is gone, you know, imagine a world without BAI. Imagine New York City without BAI. So please make a donation and make sure that you say you're pledging, you're donating on behalf of Education at the Crossroads.
well, thank you
But
for
yeah,
that, Dahoud. However, my thing is like, I don't care. As long
well,
as the
maybe
money
you
gets there,
don't.
I
Maybe
don't
you
care.
don't. Well, don't listen to him. Maybe he doesn't, but please, we want this program here. Now, yeah, I want folks to, read this important book. Brother Randall Robinson, he was very involved in helping Haiti out of the what can I say, the first coup d'etat. Folks will remember the hunger strike that he went on. Sister Catherine Dunham went on a hunger strike to force, your first Black president here, right? What's his name? Bill Clinton, who's in Radio City Music Hall tonight with Obama and Joe Biden. But, and my love is support to the folks who are out there in the rain protesting against these criminals, genociders. That's who they are. And if there were any justice in the world, all three of them would be. I don't know if there's a jail for people like that, but I'll just stop it right there. Randall's book that I want you to get to about the 2004 coup is called An Unbroken Agony, Haiti from a Revolution to the Kidnapping of a President. And yeah, this week, Basir, another one of these, my sister spoke about these ambassadors that we cannot really, I don't know why to call them ambassadors, but one of them wrote an op-ed in the Washington Post saying, pretending that, and this is the thing, is that they always come off as though the United States is a force for good in the world, meaning that they make mistakes, and sometimes things go wrong. And of course, then they apologize as if there was some mistake made, But this is James Foley, that's his name, who published this, and he's repeating this garbage that it was President Aristide who called him and to help him get out of a difficult situation, and this is why special forces came into President Aristide's house in the middle of the night at gunpoint and took him and his wife away. But Brother Randall Robinson tells the story very well. If you are following, if you understand anything about the role of the United States in slavery, if you understand anything about the role of the United States in the way it continues up to today to deal with Black people in the United States, if you understand the role of the United States in with apartheid in South Africa, with what's going on right now in Gaza, it shouldn't be difficult for you to understand the evil that the United States, and it's not a Democratic or Republican thing, it's a U.S. government issue. Since before our revolution succeeded, these criminals were plotting with France, although they had their beef, but they always unite when it comes to oppressing, to engineering the destruction of our people. The situation with Haiti is easy to understand, and I always refer to Mumia Abu Jamal, who so many commentaries where he makes it so plain for folks to understand what's the problem that the US has with Haiti. The problem is simple. They had a good gig going. They had a good gig going, you know, in the United States, in the colonies of Spain, the colonies of France, colonies of England, Portugal, all of them, until Haiti came along. And Frederick Douglass tells that story very well as well for folks who read English, who will not be able to read a Boisontonner's a great book, a first book that gets published in our country, Mémoire pour servir à l'histoire d'Haïti. And if you cannot read Baron de Vaté, so many works that our people have that explain the story of slavery, and the valiant struggle of our people. Well, as I said, you know, Frederick Douglass, to understand that once the Africans in Haiti fought this, I don't know what to call it, because in the statement that Komokoda just put out, and my sister Èzili just made reference to it. But we have a line in that statement where it says that the greatest revolution known to man happened in Haiti. Yeah, it was not in France, 1789. It was not in the United States, 1776. In Haiti, this is where all of this garbage that they're speaking of, it became a reality. And so we say no country and no clowns like Kim Ives, Dan Cohen, Travis Ross, these people, or whoever else is going to come and tell Haitians that these criminals like Cherizier, like Guy Philippe, these are revolutionaries, or these are people that can be. We come from lineage of Janjak Desalin. I mean, of these people who made defeated not just France, but England, Spain. And despite the fact that they were being supported by the United States, nascent empire at that time. And so the hunger that you're hearing of in Haiti, it has so much to do with the policy of the United States, of these European countries who want to make sure that this example does not succeed, of African people who rise up and create something for ourselves, create something outside of their reach without white involvement. And Sister Èzili spoke about Danny Glover. Yeah, Danny Glover was trying to make a film about the Haitian Revolution. And by his own testimony, he said everywhere he went to get financing for it, they're like, well, where's the white hero? And he's like, we ain't got one. And what happens? They're not interested, because empire, they need that. They need to make the world understand that without them we are nothing. And that's what Haiti represents. And this is what the theater, macabre theater, that the world is watching in Haiti has to do with. These guns, ammunition, it did not work across the ocean to get into Haiti, into the hands of these kids, most of them who can barely eat. They don't have sneakers to put on their feet, no shoes. It was put into their hands. And we know the world has seen this before. And the United States, it's the only country in the world that has used atomic bombs against another country. And this was done after this war, what they call the Second World War, was over. And I don't know why it would be difficult, Basir, for folks listening to us to understand the evil. Anyone remember Vietnam? Anyone remember Indonesia? All of these crimes that the US has committed and what's happening right now in front of the entire world. And we cannot say it's an Israeli genocide. It's a US Israeli genocide. We have to call it for what it is, because as you know, all the garbage Netanyahu's talking, he could never do this without the support, the blessing of the United States.
No question, no question. We've only got a few minutes left, so let's talk about what can people who are concerned about what is taking place in Haiti. I mean, very often, we'll see images on television and people will feel kind of, I guess you would have to say, disempowered. They feel somewhat unable to do anything. What would be some examples, Sister Èzili, what would be some examples of things that people who are concerned can do to support the people of Haiti and a true Haitian revolution in this time?
Okay, thank you for asking that question. I think that you must understand what Haïtien means. It's not the Republic of Port-au-Prince, where the 6 European powers are. Let me name them, and let me say that each one of those ambassadors deserve, these are jackals and assassins, they deserve death. They deserve to be under the jail, and all the need to suffer. I can only tell you that. And I know what my name is, and my words do not return void. The ambassadors and the folks who are killing and committing genocide in the manner that Napoleon, when he came to Haiti in 1802, he had intended genocide. And that's what the United States intend, whether people listening to me want to believe it or not. It doesn't matter to us, because we're going to fight from one generation to the other until we free Haiti, and that means the world. For me, we have a way of living. There are 2 to 3 million people in Port-au-Prince, where the United States, France, Canada, Germany, Spain, and Brazil, these are the core group, along with their organizations, which are the United OAS, the UN, and the European Union. They have come as one fist against my people. And I'm telling you, and the world, that I call upon the ancestors and all that is good in nature to squash them. I ask you to say that if you can, to squash those who want to kill innocents, who's never done anything except want to live on their island and have the resources of that island, which are massive. Every Haitian would be a multimillionaire with the resources that the United States and all of these nations are siphoning off as they present to the public this great Haitian disaster story. This is what I always say.
Mm-hmm. Listen, we got about 3 minutes, so in terms
Africans,
of concrete things,
we have Combit, Lakou, Vive, Jardin. We want food sovereignty and personal security. And we want, if you want to help anything in Haiti, help those who are doing agriculture work to bring food sovereignty and who are working together with their own communities for physical security. Look up the Wanamet Project, and they have others where Haitians are trying to be self-reliant. We want to be self-reliant. Charity doesn't help us, but self-reliance by lifting this boot off of our necks, that's what we want help with. Thank you.
Dahoud, what can people do who are concerned? How can they support the struggle of the Haitian people?
Well, what I would say, first of all, to disregard what you're getting from the mainstream and some of the progressive, quote unquote, media in Haiti, to understand that when you get this kind of sharp increase of Haiti in the news, it doesn't mean that the suffering of the Haitian people is any worse. It just means that at this particular moment, the Haitian people are fighting back in a way that is disturbing empire. Right now, the United States is using the gangs. And of course, when we say US, it's the US and its cronies using the gangs. It's using this Kenya project, fake a US occupation in disguise, a clown, William Ruto, president of Kenya, pretending that, it's a Pan-Africanism is coming to help us. And also to understand that CARICOM right now is a tool in the hands of the United States to pressure the Haitian people into accepting the will of empire. So free yourself is what I would say. Because if you are not free yourself, you cannot help the people of Haiti. Free the political prisoners in the US. At the event for Ralph Pointer last week at Riverside, we learned about so many Black political prisoners, indigenous political prisoners like Brother Kamau Siddiqui, so many of them. Free these people. And once, if you are not free, I want it to be clear. You really, like a case of water, a bag of rice is not our problem in Haiti. Thank you.
Okay. Well, listen, folks, we need to continue this discussion. We need to get information from people like yourselves. I mean, that is literally critically important. And we're happy to have had you, Brother Dahoud Andre, who has his own program on WBAI. Give yourself a little...
Saturdays, 4 to 5 p.m.
On right here, WBAI 99.5 FM. And Sister Èzili Dantò, who...
Free IT. Just go to Twitter if you want to keep up with like updates on a daily and weekly basis. Go to my Free IT movement in Facebook. Join us. Let's make it 1 million people. Let's say to Empire, we want to be human again. Free IT.
Okay. That's as should be. All right, folks, we want to make 2 quick announcements. Tomorrow, March 29th, there will be a CD party for Brother Eric Frazier. Many of you know Eric Frazier. Eric Frazier, no stranger to WBAI. He's got a new CD out. There's going to be a CD party that's going to be at the, the club, Soul BK, which is at 706 Nostrand Avenue in Brooklyn. Further information, you can call 347-240-8440. That's 347-240-8440. And on Tuesday, April 2nd at 6:30 at Bed-Stuy Restoration, is going to be a citywide reparations meeting. For information about that, you can call 718-398-1766. That's 718-398-1766. Folks, you've been listening to Education at the Crossroads. We'll be back next week. Please donate to WBAI. It is critically important that you do so. And, well, we're going to go out with Boukman Experience and one of their songs, Liberté. Let's hear it and peace.
I'm over here.
Yeah.
What are you listening?